The opinions of this podcast are my own and not necessarily the opinions of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate, any realtor associations, persons, or entities. If your property is currently listed with a real estate broker, please note that it is not our intention to solicit the offerings of other real estate brokers.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hunting Home. Today's guest is Adam Buckentine. He's with Pillar Property Management, and I've had some other property managers on the podcast before and thought I'd get some insight from Adam today on how he ended up where he is, a little background story, and kind of the day in and day out of property management. I have a lot of Adam, I have a lot of people come to me that are looking at investing in real estate, but they really want to be hands off and they don't really know where to start. And everyone always tells them, hey, are you willing to take those phone calls in the middle of the night, because a water heater's leaking, something like that. So I just want to hear what you have to say. If you kind of want to introduce yourself, where you're from, and kind of how you ended up with Pillar Property Management.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity, Blake. Happy to be here. So I actually grew up on a dairy farm in Minnesota, and so although I'm a native Minnesotan, I certainly have adopted Iowa as my home and really enjoy living in Council Bluffs. I actually got into property management kind of how you described from the investment side. In my prior career, I was a commodity trader, and so what I had done when I was in that field was started investing in some real estate on the side, and then that kind of grew and continued to grow to the point where we hired a property manager because the portfolio was bigger than really I could handle having a full-time job. So after that, the portfolio continued to grow to the point where we kind of decided, and I say we because I'm very fortunate to have a business partner at Pillar, but we decided that maybe we would take a crack at this on our own, and it was a good opportunity for me. I was in the international side of trading, so I was going to Asia a fair amount, and I'm married with two small kids and didn't really get to see my kids and my family as much as I would like, so I made the decision in April of 2023, so fairly recently, to become a property manager full-time and leave my commodity trading career.
That was probably a tough decision for you to make, and I mean, you must have felt comfortable enough and confident in your portfolio and what you were doing that you were able to step away from, I'm sure, what was a very secure job.
Yeah, I would admit I'm very fortunate that I had the full support of my wife, which I would not have been able to make that switch had she not been supportive and encouraged me to make that change. I'm also very fortunate that I've got a good group of people that I've surrounded myself with. So, above and beyond the support of my wife, we have good contractors that we work with that make life pretty easy. Very fortunate with some of the people that we've been able to work with here at Pillar to just really do a good job and allow me to make that transition and allow us to begin and grow.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, outside of I guess just the basic knowledge of property management, having that team of people surrounding you is probably, the key to success, isn't it?
I would certainly agree. I don't think that anybody can really build or grow anything completely on their own. I know that we all only have so much bandwidth, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses. I certainly have weaknesses that other people are just going to have a different skill set, and they're going to be better at different things than I am. So instead of trying to fight it and do it on my own, just try and partner with or contract with people that do have those strengths, and hopefully encourage and allow everybody to grow.
Yeah, personally speaking, I have a few rental properties, and I tell people all the time, it's like you can go for there's times where you're capable of doing it alone, and you can go make the minor repairs yourself, or you can find the right person to hire to go do it, and collect payment, and make sure your taxes are paid, all the things that go with property management. But then it's like when it rains it pours, and especially if you are geographic, whoa, my light just shut off. Especially if you are.
You need a property manager for that.
Especially if all your properties are, geographically located in the same area. You have a really like a heavy rain. You have a big freeze event. I know you were dealing with some of that stuff this winter when we had spoke, and so
Yeah.
It's just, there's days when I'm like, man, there's nothing better than owning some property and all the benefits that come with it. And then there's some days when I'm like, I'm ready to sell out. So I can definitely see where you get to a point when you're scaling up, or just depending on your life circumstances, when you would want to have someone managing your property.
Yeah, I would say that in the entire time that we've had this business, we have never once gotten a call from someone that has said, everything is going well, I have no maintenance issues, and I'm collecting rent on the first of every month.
Yeah.
Right? We get the phone calls when people are frustrated because they have tenants that are behind multiple months in rent, or they have some significant maintenance issues that they maybe don't know how to handle, or maybe during a city inspection, the city has come in and mandated that they do some things and they don't know where to start. And really, that's where we come in and try and partner with those owners and help them out in those circumstances.
So, what does your portfolio look like? Are you doing mostly like single family residential stuff? Do you have any commercial property, or what kind of properties are you guys managing?
It's primarily residential. It's a pretty healthy and pretty split mix of single family versus multifamily residential property. We do have just a little bit of commercial property, but that's really not our specialty. Our specialty is that residential management. We also do manage some affordable housing, and just recently took on an HOA. So as we grow, our portfolio has grown and diversified as well.
Okay. What does your daily routine look like as a property manager? You have this portfolio. I'm sure you have some systems in place to, keep up on the up and up with everything. What does your day to day look like? And with your position, what are you doing on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, day to day in property management can involve anything. I don't know if there's much consistency in a day to day. However, it's the same thing that most people in real estate deal with, right? A lot of it, frankly, is communication. Either communicating with tenants in terms of rent or in terms of maintenance items that need to be repaired, and then working with the contractors to coordinate and make sure that they're available and that we can get in and make those repairs, and really working with the owners as well, right? I mean, we are hired because owners either don't have the time or don't want to deal with the day-to-day business that we are dealing with. However, you think about the significant amount of money that they have invested into their real estate, they certainly want to be kept apprised of any situation and just be aware of what's going on, even though they're not directly handling it. So in terms of what I do day to day, I do communicate with the owners as often as I can, or as often as they prefer, and especially trying to communicate the type of information that they want to know about, as well as some of the company-wide things. I deal with our insurance. I deal with some of our compliance items. I deal with kind of the larger or more, I guess, company-wide financial things that are going on. So, and really, and I do try and coordinate as well. We're very fortunate that we've got a fantastic staff here, and making sure that they have got the support and resources that they need to be successful in their jobs is also a pretty big part of my day.
So are you, with most of your clients, are they, I know obviously you're communicating with them on what's going on with their property, things like that, but are they mostly hands off? Are you mostly handling everything, or do you have different setups for different clients? Because I know, some property managers that I've spoken to in the past, they say, hey, for this rate, we're basically doing everything. We're paying the taxes. We have control of utilities. We're filling vacancies. And then some are a little more, for a lower rate, they're basically maybe filling a vacancy and collecting rent and making sure that it's paid on time.
So we really kind of view and pride ourselves as a full service property management company. It's our strong preference to basically just step in and be your eyes and ears and everything for those properties. The way that we view our business and the service that we provide is that we are basically stewards of your investment, right? And so in order to do that, we feel the need, frankly, to be able to manage the maintenance, to be able to interact with the tenants, to be able to show the property when it's ready to be leased, and all those sorts of things. I know that there are certainly different arrangements out there, and once again, being a steward of the owner's investment, we're certainly willing to be flexible and work with them, but it's our strong preference to do a soup to nuts type of business.
Okay. Are you, are you having a hard time? I feel like the rental market's very strong. There's always not enough available for people. Especially they're looking for something, number one, affordability, and number two, something that they feel comfortable living in, just condition wise. Are you seeing the same thing, and are you having any trouble filling vacancies or anything like that?
Yeah, I would agree with you that the market is particularly strong right now. Almost any vacancy that we have has multiple applicants, and really it's almost a fight for the applicants to be able to lease the property. And to that end, our renewal rate on leases is extremely high. So it's relatively rare. Even if rent rates increase, a lot of times if tenants feel that they've been taken care of, their needs have been met, they are willing and want to stay in the property and just deal with that rent increase versus having to go and really just join that fight of going and finding a different place to live in a very limited pool of resources.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that there's also a point, and maybe you see this too on the backside of it. I know that, I was I'm smaller scale, and handled everything myself and still do to this day. So I was very, very picky about the tenants that I allowed into my properties. And, one thing for me is I could charge more. But I feel very comfortable about the tenants that I have, and they take good care of the properties. And so for me, I'm like, I'd rather make money on them taking care of it and me not having to go, when they decide to move on or whatever happens, that I'm not plugging a bunch of money in on repairs. I'd rather maybe not cash flow another $100 a month on this rent because I know that I have good tenants. Are you seeing people kind of respond in that way too, where they know that they're in a good situation and they're taking care of that property because they don't want to have to go find something else?
Yeah, I know it's cliche, but in property management, I really do think that you can have a win-win-win scenario. You can have a win for the owners in that they have a property that's being well taken care of and cash flowing. You can have a win for the property manager in that the owner and the tenant are easy to deal with. Everybody's on the same page. It doesn't take an extreme amount of effort to manage that property. And I think that the tenant can have a win in that regard as well, because if they're taking care of the property, they're communicating well, then yeah, I think that everybody is willing to work with each other and kind of go that extra mile or do what maybe give a break if
Yeah.
if that's how everybody is behaving.
Yeah, and I think that being honest, I think that's pretty rare. I mean, I think that there is definitely that win-win-win situation. Communication's huge. I tell my tenants from day one, and as a reminder, checking in is that, hey, if there is a minor problem, please don't be afraid to call me and tell me about it. If it needs addressed, we'll address it. I just don't want those minor problems to turn into major problems because you were scared to tell me about it in the first place or whatever it might be. Um, so, yeah, I mean, obviously you got into property management because you believed in and you saw the benefit in investing in real estate. And so, what would you tell somebody that, doesn't have any real estate investments on what they should be looking at? Because I have people all the time that, I think and there's also a double edged sword there. I think people think it's a lot easier than, what it really takes. Maybe if you can find something that cash flows and you can hire a property manager and be completely hands off, that is one thing, but you're still going to have to communicate. It's still something that you're going to have to do. So what would be your advice to somebody that's thinking about, investing in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I bought my first rental property in 2013. So in terms of investing in real estate, I've been at it a little while. And looking back on those 11 years, I don't know if there's anything I would do differently because I learned a lot. But however, there are definitely things that I wish I would have known and not have had to learn the hard way. And one of those, I really do think, like I said at the beginning, is building out your team. I don't, I've certainly seen this on the management side, which is where we get called in when somebody is talking to someone else and says, you should invest in real estate. And they say, awesome, I'm going to do it. And you get a call from someone that says, I bought this duplex. I didn't know what I was doing. It's 50% vacant and the other tenant hasn't paid rent and it's in complete disarray and I've got a city inspection on Monday.
Yeah.
And so, do your research and build your team first. Make sure that you have your accounting set up. Make sure that you've interviewed. If you want to self-manage, that's great. Make sure that you have your contractors set up. If you want a property manager, go out and interview property managers and see what they're willing to do for you. See who they're working with. And see, just see how they do things and the differences between them. But I would certainly do that. I would also say that it doesn't hurt to start out small. The first property that I bought was a 2-bed, 1-bath, single-family home, and I still own it today. And it's turned out to be a really good investment. But I didn't go out and buy a 20-unit apartment complex as my first rental property. In fact, I didn't even buy anything other than a single family until 4 years into investing. So start small, learn, and then grow. But I would encourage it. It's a phenomenal way to invest money. I've met a lot of including you, Blake. I've met a lot of great people along the way, and have really made some close and long-lasting friendships, and it's just a great industry to be in.
Yeah, I'd agree. So back in 2013, what sparked your interest in buying a rental property, and how did this snowball into what it is today?
Well, now you're going to out me, but I think that margaritas played a large factor in my
They'll do
decision.
that.
Yeah. No, I mean, in all seriousness, like I said, grew up in Minnesota. I'm not from Council Bluffs, and when I moved here, I really didn't know anybody because I was transferred here for the company that I was working for. And so I had met a few people, one of them being a realtor in town, and he had fairly recently moved to Council Bluffs as well. And so he was showing a house one day and called me and said, "Hey, do you want to go have margaritas at happy hour?" And so we met, and he started talking about this rental property that he had bought. And he had bought a single family home, was just about to close on his second single family home, and said that, it seemed like it was working out pretty well. And so, of course, he's a young realtor hungry for a commission. He says, "You should get into this."
Yeah.
And, it's funny, as the margaritas kept flowing, it made more and more sense to me. And before I knew it, I was closing on my first property. And of course, there was more thought and more spreadsheets created and all that. But really, I just kind of dove in and decided to do it. And it was a great decision.
Yeah, I think the first one is the hardest one. You're unsure of what you're going to get yourself into. And even me, like being in real estate, going and buying your first property is kind of like, you're like, man, am I ready to do this? And, am I going to lose everything over this deal? Even though it's going to work, and you've done your research, but it is the hardest one. And then after you do that first one, you're like, okay, I know what to expect. I can handle it. The phone calls, become less stressful because it's just part of it. And then, hopefully you get to the point where you can hire somebody like Pillar and be hands off. And like I said, I get people that they've been talking about it for 10 years, and I always tell them, like, imagine if you would have bought one 10 years ago, where you'd be today. And I'm like, that's the whole thing is it's almost like compounding interest. It's like, you got to get started, because if you wait, it's going to cost you. And it especially has the last 5 years. And so I'm just a strong believer in real estate, and it'd be hard for me to preach, everything that I'm, send my message out if I wasn't doing it myself. Man, this is crazy. Light is just like, never happens. And of course now I must be being super.
You're not moving enough.
No, now people know we're real.
That's right.
We got property management issues going on during the podcast. So, I guess I'm just trying to think of, I'm always thinking about trying to convince people that are just everyday, they may own their own house, that it doesn't have to be difficult. But like I said, some people think that it's going to be much simpler than it really is. And one, I just want to get your opinion on this, because I'm assuming some of the properties that you manage are older homes, older buildings. Is some people are in the state of mind that they want to pay the least amount of money for the property because they think that's how they're going to make money. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, if you can afford something, it depends on your situation, number one, but if you can afford something that's maybe a little bit newer, or maybe has some updates to it, then you should look at that, because you can probably cash flow better. You can charge more rent. You're going to have less maintenance issues. It's not always about, hey, let's try to find the cheapest property I can possibly find, because then I know that I'm not having to invest that much into this property initially. And I always tell them, you're going to, you might nickel and dime yourself to death just maintaining this property.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I would look to what the Oracle of Omaha across the river says, in that, price is what you pay, value is what you get, right? And you're right. You can certainly find, even though it doesn't seem like it anymore, you can certainly still find some cheap relative to the market real estate out there. But I would counter with this. If in the scenario that you talked about earlier with your rental portfolio, where you were picky about who's living there, but that they're doing a good job taking care of the properties and they're communicating with you on repairs that need to be made. If you buy a rundown property cheap, and try and operate it that way. If you have somebody move in and they see that you haven't fixed the things that need to be fixed and that you're not taking care of the property, why would you think that they are going to take care of the property as the tenants living there? So I talked about that win-win-win earlier. I would agree. Either, if you're able to spend a little bit more and buy a little bit nicer property, or maybe don't, but be willing to make that upfront investment in taking that property that's maybe a little bit run down and making it a little bit nicer. And in our experience, we see that almost all the time, if you hand over the keys to a nice property, you're going to receive the keys back to a property that's been maintained.
That's a very good point. It's full circle. You're taking care of it. You get a good tenant in place that sees that you're taking care of it, and they're going to do the same. You hope they do the same, and they should. So, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on today. If I have anybody that's looking for property management, I know where to send them, and you got a great partner in your business, and so once again, thanks, Adam, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity. If anybody has any questions, and honestly, I would say this in the real estate community, just call up anybody and ask them for a cup of coffee. I've never met anyone that's not willing to sit down and answer your questions and talk to you.
Yeah, very good point. All right, Adam, we'll see you soon.
You bet. Thanks, Blake.